Next speaker is Rajiv Ranjan Mishra, who is the Director General of National Mission for Clean Ganga.
I need
He, and he will be speaking on the topic Technology Restoring Life to India's Lifeline, the case of River Ganga. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to share some of our experiences from River Ganga. And as you very rightly, very aptly, you have named this the technology, role of technology, which is restoring life of India, India's lifeline. So there is no doubt that River Ganga is lifeline of our country. This represents, if you have to name one thing which represents India, that's River Ganga. It's our national river. It's a center of our collective consciousness. And not only from the point of view of our faith and belief, it's also absolutely essential from the point of view of ensuring food security as well as water security for the country. You all may be aware, more than 45% of the country's population is part of this basin. Basin is very rich in terms of biodiversity, in terms of its ecology, and it's 2,500 kilometer long river, but it's not just one river. What we are talking of restoring or rejuvenating is not just River Ganga, but all its tributaries in Namami Gange program. And primarily what we are looking at the basin. This is also very important to understand that based upon the experiences of the previous programs, when we were looking at Namami Gange and how really we should conceptualize this program in 2014-15, and so few things emerged. One very important factor was that we must give lot of importance to scientific methods and technology, the use of best possible technology. We were very lucky that a few years back, the consortium of 7 IITs were given a task of doing scientific research, understanding the basin statistics completely, and then come up with a plan. So in 2015, we had the benefit of Ganga River Basin Management Plan made by these IITs. And they had created a lot of thematic groups. And you will be very happy to know that apart from various groups on the environmental flow or on the water quality or on biodiversity, ecology, there was a specific group which was on the geospatial database management. So I think this group of consortium of IITs also realized that this will be a very key item, because once you have that kind of capability, that will help all other missions. So the recommendation gave basically that we must restore Ganga, we must restore its wholesomeness. Then what exactly is the wholesomeness? It was defined in terms of, let's say, one thing is Nirmal Ganga, Nirmalta. So basically unpolluted flow. So primarily we are looking at water quality. Then second was Aviralta. Aviral Ganga means the ecology and flow must be restored. So no river is a river unless there is a good flow. So I think that becomes another important thing. And then two other things were noted down. One is the ecological identity of the river has to be restored. So I mean, river is not just water. It's water, it's sediment, it's several other things. And also it contains flora and fauna. So all put together is the ecology. Similarly, river also has taken thousands of years to come to this shape. It has its own morphology, it has its own structure, it has its own structure of sand. Different stretches have different kind of sediments. So I think the geological identity of the river also needs to be restored, also needs to be respected. So primarily in terms of Aviral Ganga, Nirmal Ganga, and also ecological and geological identity, that is how the vision was defined. And as I told you, we had a lot of scientific data, and then we started working on this. Few very path-breaking projects were taken up by our mission, which is primarily based upon use of technology for doing it. I would like to tell, I think just I was hearing the previous presentation, which talked quite a lot about using technology for pipelines, for networks, for monitoring. So I think this mission, if you look at, we were looking at, I mean, one is of course the Nirmal Ganga, one is Aviral Ganga, and one is People River Connect. You have to also connect people with it, and also what we call Gyan Ganga. So you have to create a lot of evidence, you have to create a lot of documents, you have to do a lot of research. So one project I will basically try to give some example of some of the projects which is actually helping us in planning and executing various projects. You have to know the river in its entirety. The whole basin has to be understood. So main river, it has several tributaries. Some of the tributaries are also iconic rivers like Yamuna. Then you have got wetlands all along Ganga basin, all along this river. There are thousands of wetlands which are very important, and then we have to look them also, and then look at their rejuvenation, look at mapping of the wetlands, look at the status and health of the wetlands. If you go to the Uttarakhand or any other hill area, Himachal Pradesh, the springs are very important. So you have to do mapping of springs. And similarly, the floodplain. Floodplain is part of the river. Like you have got an environmental flow, the minimum flow needed by the river for maintaining its ecology. Similarly, you need some land where the river can expand and contract, and that's the way the aquifers can get recharged. So looking at all of them, we have taken up a mapping of very high resolution digital elevation model, GIS database using LIDAR with Survey of India. So it's mapping of 43,000 square kilometer area. Work is going on. 10-kilometer buffer zone both sides of the river. So you can understand the size. And I am very happy to say that such a large project in public sector of mapping using LIDAR was taken up for the first time in this mission. This has also set certain standards for the industry. The competition came up, and then several technology providers, several companies in this field, they have competed, and they have got in several packages the work from Survey of India under Namami Ganga. Now, why we are going for such a kind of large scale mapping, and then we are going to do further. This kind of things can be done for the other rivers also. We started with the main Ganga. The purpose is, for the first time, we will be knowing with very high resolution mapping of the basin, mapping of the river will be there, and adjoining zone will be there. We will be able to use it for demarcation of floodplain. Once you know for a fact, then perhaps you can protect the floodplain and its need. And floodplain wetlands are very important. So I think the protection of floodplain wetlands, their mapping through a very high objective technological method will also help us. This will also be very useful for project preparation, because as we know, we have already created several sewer networks and several sewerage treatment plants. But to know how the flow is coming, even for monitoring of industries. So with the help of this, we can perhaps say that which industry is discharging, what are the discharge points, and how it is tracing, how the water or the effluent is going and meeting some other water body, and drain after drain it reaches Ganga. So I think we are creating a very, very objective, very scientific, big database, which is going to be very, very useful for future planning and also current monitoring. So this then, using GIS, using these technologies, we have taken up mapping of different aspects of the river. As I told you, we have to understand river in its entirety, and this mission is trying to do that and set up a kind of framework. So we have to look at biodiversity profile. So I think with the help of Wildlife Institute of India, we are actually trying to map the aquatic life all along the river. We started with this project with all along the river, so that they are doing the mapping, the status, other scientific things will also be done. But on a map, we will be knowing in this stretch what are the key species, what is their condition, and what should be done for their rescue, their rehabilitation, and then the improving their health. Similarly, with the help of Central Inland Fishery Research Institute, we are also doing a kind of mapping of fishery resource all along river, different types of fish. And it's also again very important from economic point of view, because livelihood of lakhs of people are connected with fishery, and then the health of fishery also improves, indicates the health of the river. Health of river dolphin, Gangetic dolphin indicates the river is also improving its health. So I think it's very important to scientifically do this mapping, and then all of them are on the GIS ready data set. They are being done either by CIPRI or by WIA. So I think we are creating a huge resource base and database for this. Similarly, we are also doing mapping of biological diversity. I mean, we all understand, we all have heard that Ganga water has a special property. It does not get putrefied very easily. For years together, you can keep in your home. So what exactly is there? So how it changes, how microbial diversity changes. So with the help of NIRI, you can see we are working with several scientific institutions. So with the help of NIRI, we have already proceeded on this project, and then the bacteriophage, its presence and its variation along the river, plus some other kind of microbial diversity, that study is also going on, and this is again GIS based. Similarly, about fauna, I mean, I am talking of the special quality. Lot of the natural forest which has been there since eternity along the river, especially in the upper reaches, they actually help in maintaining a kind of a special property of this river. So we have actually again done a mapping of the forest and then the trees and their species along river, whether they are in the natural river escape or in the urban river escape or the agriculture river escape, with the help of Forest Research Institute. And a detailed scientific plan was made for afforestation, restoring the forestry and catchment area treatment all along Ganga. And again, this has been done with the help of FRI, and now Ministry of Environment and Forest is replicating similar exercise for 13 more rivers in the country. But it started with this project. Again, changing little bit, we are also using, we are also doing the cultural mapping. We all know the rich heritage of our river Ganga, but all along it, what kind of natural heritage is there, what kind of built heritage is there, what kind of intangible heritage is there. So with the help of INTAG, a project is underway where all these things are being mapped all along the river, and district as a unit we are doing this mapping, so that future action can also take place for restoration of some of these things or preservation of all these assets of different type. Few other important things. See, the surface water and groundwater have lot of interrelation. Aquifers are very important, because if your aquifer is healthy, if the groundwater is protected and over exploitation does not take place, then in the lean season river will also get flow, we call it base flow, back in the river, because when it's lean season, the river does not get much water from the glacial melting or other sources. So I think that becomes very important to do this mapping, and a very interesting project we are doing with the help of NGRI Hyderabad about mapping heli survey of paleo channels between Kosambi and Kanpur. So I think in initial pilot project indications came that there is a huge underground a kind of hidden river, a huge aquifer is there. So we are trying to do that survey between Kanpur and Kosambi, because that could be actually, if we understand well and if we can locate and come out of this survey and this whole research, perhaps this can be used for, and this is between Ganga and Yamuna. I mean, that's in between the two rivers. In that Doab, this aquifer is there. So similarly, for spring rejuvenation, with the help of IIT Roorkee as well as Survey of India, we are trying to use LIDAR mapping to create an inventory of springs in Tehri Garhwal. Ultimately, see, this project we are doing as a kind of pilot for one district in Uttarakhand. We will expand it further, and then the Roorkee IIT is helping us in looking at rejuvenation of dying springs, and what kind of human interface is actually creating problem for these springs, because springs are very important for drinking water in several habitations in Uttarakhand. Niti Aayog is looking at this study, and perhaps there will be a larger program for rejuvenation of Himalayan springs in the country. So I think that there are several aspects which are very important. Some other interesting things are there. You maybe, many of you would be aware, the USA and CIA, basically they had done some mapping and some images, corona images. Now we understand corona in a different context. That these images were of river Ganga was mapped in 1960s by them. Now they are not classified data. So we have obtained that, and then IIT Kanpur is working on this, trying to understand these archival images and then try to reflect upon LULC, the land use land change pattern, etc., from those days to now, and then try to develop certain guidelines or certain desirable land use pattern, etc., along the river. So again, this is something little futuristic work, looking at past and trying to predict future on that, and then change our some of the behaviors in that. Similarly, there is a lot of scientific and technological and modeling which is going on from the basin management point of view. So about the flow analysis, creating different scenarios. for e-flow assessment. So that's again something which is very important, and that can be done with the scientific principles. That is also going on, and with IIT Delhi we are now working for looking at the climate change. That again becomes very, very important at this point of time in the light of the recent Uttarakhand disaster. So I think the scenarios of 2050 and 2100, what kind of scenario, what kind of climate change predictions will be there. So I think with atmospheric science people in IIT Delhi, we are working on a project with them. We have a very, very strong tie-up with Department of Science and Technology institutions, CSRI institutions, and IITs. So we are trying to develop a kind of very good resource base and knowledge base, so that various missions for development of the projects. This is not the occasion to talk about what we have done in sewage treatment, what we have done in industry, but I can tell you that technology, whether it's a SCADA thing, we are, all the new STPs are fitted with SCADA, and then we are trying to develop a state-of-the-art Ganga monitoring center, and trying to retrofit the older assets also, older STPs also with that. Industry's influence online monitoring system is being worked out. It's already in place in certain cases. And we have also, for the first time, the river water quality, real-time river water quality systems also have been set up along Ganga. We have to do more on that. Around 50% of the work, 36 stations are there. More stations will come, and many of these things will go for the other rivers also. Before I close, I will just like to also draw attention that monitoring and all these things are important, and project planning, research. What's perhaps more important, to use technology in public outreach, because we have to ultimately communicate this technology in a simpler terms to people, and only when people join, the lifeline of the country can really get life if everyone joins hands. So it's very important that we engage with people, and our focus is primarily upon youth and students. So for them, we actually conduct a lot of contests with the help of some of these Kendriya Vidyalaya and other educational institutions and colleges also, for mapping, for a kind of giving some case exercises to universities. So I think that also helps them in understanding technology, and also understanding by doing themselves. So I think these things are very important. And the priority given by government is obvious, that the recent order of government to liberalize some of this mapping and some of this data set will further help. So we in this mission, we also are trying to utilize we are conducting online quiz, the Ganga Quest. Again, it will start in April. So several these technological platforms, and nowadays the new generation is much more well versed with this use of technology. So we have to actually talk to them in this language, and then connect them with the river, connect them with the health of the water conservation.
So sorry for interruption,
So,
but we are exceeding the time limit. I would request you to
okay.
please.
So I am just closing, madam. Thank you, everyone. And then I have just concluded. I would have anyway closed. So thank you once again for giving this opportunity. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very good presentation. It was really, it gives us a lot of insight